The Office of the Comptroller of the Currency
Yep.
is now run by Brian Brooks, who was the former chief legal officer at Coinbase, as you know.
Yeah.
And within the first 60 days of him being on the job, he issues the clarification that came out this past week. And essentially what he said is, hey, if you are a bank, you should be able to custody the value of assets or valuable assets for your customers. That includes everything from safety deposit boxes to virtual vaults is kind of the language they used. And that includes cryptocurrencies being part of those valuable assets of your clients. And so really issuing kind of a clarification. Walk us through kind of your understanding of like, what does this mean and what are the ramifications?
It's a big deal, and it's a bigger deal than most folks in the crypto industry understand. Look, the OCC copied Wyoming. His first pronouncement was looking at a special type of payment charter. I knew that wasn't going to go anywhere because he would really have needed congressional authorization for that. He can't just change an interpretation of an existing law. And so I figured, all right, if that's what we're up against, that's not going to change anything. But this announcement yesterday or 2 days ago now absolutely changes everything because as of 2 days ago, national banks can custody digital assets. And it's just, it is what it is. They don't need to go through a special process unless this is a material part of their business. The way the banking regulation works is if it is a material part of your business, then you really have to go through a procedure with your regulator where they review what your business plan is and the impact on the bank from a safety and soundness perspective. But if it's one of the behemoths, literally they can be in the business tomorrow because it's not going to be material. It's not going to have a big impact on the bank from a safety and soundness perspective. So we've got ears to the ground. We've got a lot of people, multiple people who are inside the circle. I did not know this was coming. Most people didn't. They kept it a big secret, but it's here, and it's a much bigger deal than folks realize, in part because of some pieces that haven't fallen into place yet. Every US bank is now able to custody crypto. And when I say every, some are probably thinking, wait a minute, what about the state banks? Only a relatively small fraction of the number of banks in this country are regulated by the OCC. The OCC regulates national banks, and then there are 50 state regulators that regulate state banks. At the end of the day, they're not different. There's maybe a perception that a national bank has an advantage just because it's national, but here's the difference. State banks have the exact same master account at the Federal Reserve that a national bank has. They can do the same things, and that state member banks, by law, can do everything that a national bank can do. So this is why I say every bank in the country now can custody digital assets as a result of that interpretive letter. The interesting question is, who put that interpretive letter in? That would have had to have been one of the national banks. And my first reaction was I was assuming it was Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs is a state bank. They're not a national bank. So I poured through the list of national banks. And by the way, we've gotten a couple of calls from national banks as well, because everybody has just, not everybody realizes yet how meaningful this is, because I've seen some comments from some of the native crypto companies that indicate to me they don't understand what really happened yet, but they will. They'll figure it out. The entire landscape in the US just shifted, and now you need a bank license in order to be competitive. That's the bottom line. I'll also point to Fidelity Digital put out a tweet yesterday that indicates they get what's going on. And I'll paraphrase it. They said, congratulations to the national banks for coming into this industry. We'd be happy to be your sub-custodian. That tells you what they know. They know what's going on. And for Fidelity to be a sub-custodian to national bank, it's one of the big ones.
So there's kind of two components here, right? So a national bank basically asked and said, can you clarify for us what the current rules are? The OCC has clarified and said, yes, you may custody cryptocurrency. There's the implications on the legacy kind of financial organizations, and there's an impact on the crypto companies. Let's start with the crypto companies, because I think that's kind of more cut and dry. You previously said that now it's going to require a bank license for people to be competitive on the custody side. Kind of elaborate on that a little bit and explain it.
Well, custody and prime brokerage, and maybe even exchange. Again, it's sort of funny. I figured out a couple years ago when I was in Wyoming working spitballing on what should a state do to grab a competitive advantage, we figured out that you needed to have a bank license in order to have a competitive advantage here. And the basic simple observation is crypto settles very quickly. Dollars settle very slowly. It's not complicated. And if you're trying to do crypto to fiat, you've got some settlement problems, which injects something called Herstatt risk, which is Herstatt was a big German bank that failed in the foreign exchange market and triggered a cascade of losses among a lot of banks. And really what it is basically you just got settlement risk. If you don't have, it's like trading a baseball card, right? Both people hold on to the baseball card and then they let go at the same time. That's kids tend to have the better understanding of the way the world should work, right? And the adults screwed it up and set up these very different settlement cycles for dollars. And then there are a lot of wrinkles inside of it too. Fed wires can be reversed. Most folks don't know that. You don't have settlement finality with Fed wire. And then ACH is a very big deal because ACH transactions for consumers, they can reverse an ACH transaction for 60 days beyond the statement period. And if you're at the beginning of your statement cycle, that means your ACH transaction isn't actually settled for 90 days. So this is the reason why the crypto companies have, if you ACH a dollar payment into one of the crypto exchanges, they typically don't give you access to it right away. They want to know if you're going to try to take it back. And there's a lot of ACH fraud. I think most folks are aware of the chargeback risk in credit cards, but there's chargeback risk in dollar payments too. So those are a lot of the real world problems. And when we started working on some of our products, we spent a lot of time talking to institutional traders, but also just users of the payment system. Keep in mind, I came from the corporate treasury world, working with corporate treasurers when I was on Wall Street, and they live this pain every day. There are a lot of problems with the fact that US dollar payments are delayed. So I figured out pretty early on, and I haven't even talked about the securities piece. What does it take to be a qualified custodian? A trust company doesn't cut it because of the way the laws are written. You've got to be a bank, and a bank in one part of the custody rule says you can be a trust company, but in the part of the custody rule that really matters, it says it does not include a trust company. And the definition of bank means takes deposits and makes loans. So or you've got to be a state chartered bank, which is what Avanti is. But you've got to fit into those categories in order to be a true qualified custodian. And trust companies, unless they do fiduciary business, which there's only one trust company that custodies crypto that I know of that does fiduciary business. Fiduciary business means you're exercising discretion over company assets. You're taking fiduciary responsibility for those assets. That is not what typical crypto custody is. So this is a long, convoluted answer to say the trust company licenses are now obsolete. If a bank can custody crypto, particularly if it's one of the big guys, all the native crypto companies now need to get bank licenses. And it's funny, I was screaming this from the mountaintop long before I started Avanti, get a bank license, right? President Trump told Libra, get a bank license. It's not like folks weren't warned, get a bank license. Well, it's here now. Everybody's gonna have to get a bank license. And it takes 9 to 12 months to get a bank license. I don't like the fact that it does, but it does. It's an unbelievably difficult process, which is why probably a lot of folks looked at it in Wyoming and didn't get it started. And I'm very glad I did, because now I think Avanti's in the pole position. We're in a really interesting position relative to the shift that just occurred in the industry.